Welcome to Tibalt's Apprentice. We're going to do another lab report, but this time I'm actually joined in the lab by Brian. You may remember Brian from some of my first episodes, including the first episode and a couple others after that. But Brian always seems to be there for the milestone episodes. So this episode, like I say, is going to be a lab report, so it's going to be a little different than what we usually do. But also the milestone comes in from the standpoint of we now have an affiliate link for TCG Player. You'll find that down below there. If I get really creative, I may flash it up on the screen here. But you'll certainly find that in the show notes. Number one, I'm always going to stress, buy your cards locally. Go to your local card store, game store, comic book store, wherever you can buy locally, if you can, and support that. Support where you play. If you can't do that, sometimes you can't, definitely buy online, and TCG Player would be the place to go. And if you go on our link, that would help us even more. But anyhow, the lab report. I had a question that I put out. So I'm going to ask you first of all. Do you actively try to improve how you play, or do you just switch up the decks you play?
Improve my play style.
You try to improve.
Learn from opponents' moves and improve on my moves.
Okay. So you do that by watching the games that you play.
Exactly.
And then what else do you do though?
Research the cards in my deck and see what other angles those cards can be used in.
Okay.
Other combos those cards might come out with that may have not been thought of.
Right. And so, you're doing that either are you going online, or are you just
online, usually through other tutorial videos, other people's ideas, search engines, searching those cards out and seeing, I think TGI was
right, the TCG Player
will show different links to different cards connected, familiar cards played with them.
Okay.
How many decks are used in, other ideas.
Okay. So I put this question out there to several of the groups on Facebook, just to see some of the responses I got. Now, I don't have any of the names, so I don't have specific quotes here, but I do have what they said. And once I immediately alleviated the questions, or rather the answers that all just said, both. Can't you do both? Can't you? Well, yeah, you can, but the question was, how do you play Magic? So, but this first one says, learning, the answer is yes. Learning how to play the game better by experimenting with new strategies. And usually if you can play a strategy, you can play a certain line of play, you can also figure out how to defeat it. Another person here commented that they try to improve all the time, but they said something that I thought was most important, which is by changing their mindset. So it's very easy if you sat down with the same group of people in a play group, or if you only play the same decks repetitively. Yes, you're going to improve up to a certain point, but you're not necessarily going to stretch your boundaries. You're not necessarily going to go and learn more. So this one here, it says, obviously, the more you practice with the deck, the better you get. Starting with mulligans, for example. Mulligans are something that I never did. I wouldn't say I started there. My strategy to try to improve mostly became, like you said, actually doing research, actually looking at other cards, looking at the broader metagame, not necessarily just what's current, but just the metagame as far as throughout all of Commander, what's out there. But the other thing was just seeing what the card interactions were and stuff. This person actually goes on to say, I wonder sometimes how people with their 20 decks have even a remote chance of knowing how to play them well instead of just casting everything on curve. Well, I took offense at this because I have 20.
But do you know how to play all those 20 decks?
So yes and no. And that's really what got me interested in doing this specific lab report on this. and actually formulating this question.
I mean, I got what, 15 decks. And
Exactly.
they're all commanders, and you're looking at what, 15 decks, that's 1,500.
So here's the thing though, I don't necessarily agree with what they were saying about not having a remote chance of knowing how to play or knowing how to make them win, because you're going to have specific lines of play throughout your decks. I think if you play creature decks, you're going to know, obviously I need to cast creatures and I need to make them work synergistically. So you may have some ideas about how to play those decks and to win with those decks. But I do understand their point of, if you've got so many varied strategies, how do you keep track of all of those? I just do it by playing the cards I like, or finding the cards that fit my personality. That's something else.
Style, I guess.
Yes, exactly. You kind of define and your play style, and this has come up with me even with on Arena, that I'll grab the pre-constructed decks that they have there, maybe start out with, but I find them being a hindrance because I didn't design them, or I didn't put the cards together, so I don't know what I'm looking for. And maybe if I was a better player, I would know right away. I would be able to do a better threat assessment, but I also know what works for me. So I tend to generally look for the cards that I know how to use well, but now am I improving my game if I'm only trying to do that? I think one of the best things you can do is play with other people. So another one of my responses that came back here was someone that plays Commander exclusively. They said that Arena has actually helped them play better Commander. And I believe that's the same thing for me. Mainly because I have a better understanding of the stack and how it works. And Arena is absolutely unforgiving when it comes to the stack and making mistakes. There's no go backs. There's no, oh, I missed a trigger, I need to go back. You're playing Arena and stuff, you click that go button, it's gone, and now you have to live with it. So I definitely think that is a way of improving the game. Somebody else here, the final comment that I was just going to read here is that this person uses the commanders to help them learn specific mechanics.
Okay.
So I think those are all valid ways of improving your play to not have to go on to another deck. I've seen many people that if this deck, they'll blame it on the deck and they'll just put it away. How much time do you spend improving your decks? Do you
If
start
I
with the concept?
like the commander and I like the concept, I'll improve it. If I feel that the concept is not my type of play style, I'll destroy the deck and use those cards in another design.
And find something.
And I've done that many times. Like I know I have Grin Zone, I like him, I'll improve him.
Right.
We had that one, the Sphinx, which
Right.
attack, and I didn't like the way that worked.
Right.
So I've taken cards away from that and put into other decks.
Right. Okay.
For example, I'm working on like a new chaotic deck,
Nice.
in which we can probably talk in a future episode.
I look forward to that because you shared a little bit of what that what's
I like
intended with that
I like the idea that everyone else fighting
amongst
their
themselves.
own war, and then you watch in the background,
Okay.
adding a little bit here and there, a little more blood in the water for them to go after each other.
Nice. I like that. Well, I look forward to seeing that. The other thing, so I mean, I guess at this point for this lab report is I'm going to leave you with that question. Do you actively try to improve your gameplay? And if so, how do you do it? Leave that in the comments below, or you just move on to another deck, or is it a combination of both? Feel free to let us know. In the meantime, thank you for joining us for Tibalt's Apprentice Lab Report.